The colony on the edge of human space had always been quiet, far from the busy worlds in the inner systems. The buildings were made of steel and glass, with tall towers stretching toward the dull orange sky. People lived their lives carefully, knowing that far away, dangers could come without warning. They had walls and patrols, but nothing could truly prepare them for what was about to appear. The first sign came late in the evening. A strange shadow moved across the horizon, faster than any normal ship or animal. People looked up and felt a chill. Farmers stopped their work, children froze in the streets, and guards checked their weapons nervously. The shadow grew larger, and soon, it revealed its form. It was Veraxis, the alien vampire queen. She was tall and elegant, but there was something unnatural in her movements. Her skin shimmered with a strange dark light, and her eyes glowed like red fire. Her long limbs moved gracefully, as if she were floating rather than walking. Around her, the air seemed to twist and bend. Even the colony's strongest soldiers felt a wave of fear that made their knees weak. The people screamed and ran. Every human that saw her turned and fled in panic. Soldiers fired their weapons, but the bullets bounced off her body, leaving sparks in the air, but not a scratch on her. She moved among the fleeing humans like a shadow, her eyes following each person. With a single gesture, she could drain the energy from anyone nearby, leaving them pale and lifeless on the ground. Among the crowd, Evan Brooks stood still. He was a soldier assigned to protect the colony, but even he had never faced anything like this. His heart raced, but his mind stayed calm. He had trained for battles, but he had never imagined fighting a creature like Veraxis. Everyone he knew was running away, screaming for safety. Yet, he could not move. Something inside him told him he could not leave. He looked at the buildings around him. Families were trapped in their homes, their doors locked, their windows too small to escape quickly. Children cried for their parents. Elderly people could not move fast enough. If everyone ran, who would save them? Evan took a deep breath and stepped forward, his boots making firm sounds on the metal floor. As he moved, he saw one of his friends, a young technician named Lily Carter. She had stayed behind to help people trapped in the buildings. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. But she worked quickly, guiding people to safety. Evan ran to her. "We have to go," she shouted, her voice breaking. "There's nothing we can do. Everyone is leaving." Evan shook his head. "I can't leave them. I can't let her destroy everyone. You need to take the others and get out." Lily's eyes widened. "You're going to stay? You'll die." "I might," he said simply, "but someone has to fight, or no one will survive." Reluctantly, Lily helped gather the last of the survivors. Together, they moved toward the colony's evacuation ships. She hesitated, looking back at Evan. "Promise me you'll survive," she whispered. "I'll try," he said. He could not promise more. Then she ran, leading the people toward safety. Evan turned back to face the approaching queen. The ruins of the old fortress were nearby. It had been abandoned for centuries, a place of strange carvings and old technology. People avoided it, believing it was haunted, but now it was the only place Evan could think to confront Veraxis. He hoped that somewhere inside, there might be something he could use against her. As he entered the ruins, he felt the air change. The shadows grew longer, and a cold wind blew through broken windows and doors. The floor was uneven, with jagged stones and wires sticking out. Symbols were carved into the walls, strange patterns that glowed faintly in the dark. Evan could not read them, but he felt that they were important. They gave him hope. Suddenly, Veraxis appeared at the entrance. Her red eyes shone in the darkness, and her smile was sharp and cruel. She moved like a predator, gliding toward him without hesitation. The ground trembled slightly with each step she took. Evan raised his weapon, but he knew it was useless. Bullets could not harm her. "You are brave," she said, her voice echoing through the ruins. "Or foolish. I do not understand why you do not run like the others. I protect my people, Evan replied. I won't let you hurt them. She tilted her head. Curious. Protect them? You are only one. You cannot stop me. Why not run and save your life? Because someone has to fight, he said. Someone has to stand when everyone else runs. Varaxis laughed softly. It was a sound like wind through broken glass. She moved closer, her presence pressing on his mind, trying to bend his thoughts. Evan felt fear rise in him, but he fought it. He focused on the people he had saved, on Lily and the children she had taken to safety. He focused on the thought that if he gave up, no one would survive. He looked around the ruins. There were broken devices, old machines, and strange energy channels carved into the floor. Some of them pulsed faintly, as if waiting for power. Evan did not understand them fully, but he realized they might be useful. Varaxis struck first. She moved with incredible speed, trying to grab him. Evan dodged, rolling to the side. The force of her movement smashed into the walls, sending stones and dust flying. He ran, using the ruins as cover. Every step was dangerous, but he could feel her following him, sensing his presence. He found a small room with some old devices. He quickly inspected them. Some wires were broken, some panels missing, but he could see the potential. If he could restore even a part of this ancient system, he might be able to slow her down. Time was short, but he had no choice. Varaxis entered the room, her form filling the space. She moved like liquid, her hands reaching for him. Evan grabbed a metal pipe and swung it. Not to hurt her, but to create a barrier between them. She moved around it effortlessly, her eyes never leaving his. You fight well, she said, her voice calm but dangerous. But you cannot win. Your people will die, and then you will die too. I don't need to win, Evan said. I just need to survive long enough to protect them. She paused, intrigued. No human had ever spoken to her with such courage, not even the soldiers who had faced her in the past. Most humans screamed and ran. Evan's defiance was unusual, and she found it fascinating. Evan worked quickly, connecting wires and pressing buttons. Sparks flew, and the devices hummed to life. A faint golden glow spread across the room, and he realized it affected the energy around him. Varaxis hissed and stepped back. Her movement slowed. She tried to break free, but the devices formed a weak barrier. You are clever, she said. Perhaps I underestimated you. I have to be clever, Evan replied. I have to be fast. I don't have a choice. He kept working, hoping to strengthen the barrier. Every second counted. Varaxis tried to attack, but each time she touched the glowing energy, she recoiled. Evan realized that the ancient devices were designed to fight creatures like her. Long ago, someone had built them to protect humans from beings far stronger and more dangerous. Evan's mind raced. He needed more power. He ran deeper into the ruins. Following the faint energy channels, he saw carvings on the walls that glowed brighter as he approached. Something inside him told him that if he reached the central chamber, he could activate the main system. It was a risk, but it was the only chance. Varaxis followed, her curiosity growing. She had not felt fear in centuries, but this human made her pause. He did not flee. He did not beg. He simply moved with purpose. She found herself fascinated and annoyed at the same time. Evan reached the central chamber. It was massive, with tall pillars and a strange circular device in the middle. The carvings on the walls were intricate, showing battles between humans and creatures like Varaxis. He realized that the ancient builders had fought and won against her kind. The device in the center was a control panel, and he worked quickly to activate it. Golden energy spread across the room, connecting the pillars and forming a cage of light. Varaxis hissed, stepping back as the energy touched her. She tried to break free, but the energy slowed her, forcing her to move carefully. Evan took a deep breath. He knew this was only a temporary solution. She was strong, clever, and dangerous. The fight was not over. But for now, the people of the colony had a chance. They could escape. They could survive. Because one human refused to run, he looked at the golden cage, at the glowing energy, and felt a strange mix of fear and determination. He was alone, but he was standing. He was not hiding. He was not running. He was fighting, and that was enough to give hope. From the shadows, Varaxis's glowing eyes watched him. She was trapped for now, but she was not defeated. Evan knew that the next battle would be even harder, but he did not think of fleeing. He thought of the people he had sworn to protect. He thought of the colony, and of Lily, and of the children who deserved a chance to live. The chamber was silent, except for the hum of the ancient devices. Evan felt the weight of what he had done, but he also felt a spark of pride. He had faced the alien vampire queen alone. He had refused to run. He had chosen to fight when everyone else fled, and that choice, he knew, was only the beginning. The golden cage glowed brightly in the ruined chamber, surrounding Varaxis and forcing her to move with care. Evan stood a few steps away, breathing heavily, but his mind was alert. He knew that this temporary barrier would not hold her forever. She was too strong, too clever, and she was watching him closely, studying his movements. He moved slowly around the edges of the cage, examining the energy channels and the control panels. The ancient devices hummed, sending energy through the pillars and walls. Sparks danced in the air as he pressed buttons and twisted levers, trying to strengthen the cage. Every action he took caused Varaxis to shift slightly, testing the limits of her restraint. "You are persistent," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber like a cold wind. "Most humans would have died of fear long ago. Why do you not run? Why do you not beg for your life?" "I am not like the others," Evan replied, his voice firm. "I do not run. I do not beg. I fight to protect my people. That is enough." Varaxis tilted her head, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Protect them? You are one person. You cannot stop me." "Your words are meaningless," Evan did not answer. Words alone would not stop her. He needed to act, to find a way to trap her completely, or weaken her so she could be contained. He remembered the carvings on the walls, the old drawings of humans fighting creatures like her. The ancient builders had used the energy of the fortress itself to contain her kind. If he could activate the central energy circuits fully, he might be able to hold her permanently. He ran to the main control panel in the center of the chamber. It was old, with levers that had not been touched in centuries. Dust and corrosion covered many of the buttons, but the basic structure still worked. Evan's hands shook as he flipped switches and pressed panels. The hum of power grew louder, and the golden light from the pillars intensified. Varaxis hissed, her eyes glowing brighter. She struck at the energy cage, trying to break free. Each time her hands touched the golden light, sparks flew, and her movements slowed. She growled, a low sound that shook the walls. "You are clever," she said, her voice tight with irritation. "But cleverness alone cannot save you. Soon, this will fail, and I will be free." "I hope not," Evan said, continuing to work. He studied the patterns of the energy flow. The devices were old, but they were powerful. He could see the circuits linking the pillars, channels of light that fed energy into the central control. If he could activate all of them at once, the cage would hold her completely. Varaxis moved closer, testing the limits of the barrier. Her presence was overwhelming. Even through the energy, he felt her trying to reach into his mind, to make him feel fear and despair. Evan clenched his fists, focusing on his purpose. He could not allow himself to panic. He could not allow himself to fail. "You are strong," she said, her voice soft but dangerous. "Stronger than any human I have faced. I wonder, why do you not surrender?" "I will not surrender," Evan said. "I will not let you hurt my people. That is all I need to know. That is enough to keep me standing." Varaxis paused, her glowing eyes studying him. For a moment, she seemed curious, almost thoughtful. Then she hissed, and attacked again. Striking at the pillars with incredible speed, sparks flew, and the golden energy shimmered. The cage bent but did not break. Evan ran between the pillars, moving quickly to adjust the controls. He pressed levers and turned switches, listening to the hum of power. Each adjustment made the cage stronger, forcing Varaxis to slow her movements further. She hissed in frustration, realizing that her strength alone was not enough to escape. "You are persistent," she said again, her voice trembling slightly. "No human has ever resisted me like this. Why do you fight? What is in your mind that makes you different?" "I fight because I have to," Evan replied. "Because someone must stand when everyone else runs. Someone must protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is my choice, and it is my strength." Varaxis tilted her head, intrigued. For centuries, she had hunted humans, feeding on their energy and fear. She had never seen this level of determination. This refusal to run. She could feel his mind, his courage, and for the first time, she was unsure. Evan moved to another panel, this one with ancient symbols etched into the metal. He pressed buttons, following a pattern he could barely understand. The golden light from the pillars began to converge, forming a circle of energy around Varaxis that tightened with every second. She struck out, but the energy pushed her back, forcing her to retreat into the center of the cage. "You are clever, human," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "But cleverness will not save you. Soon, this cage will fail, and I will be free. And when I am free, you will die." "I know," Evan said calmly. "But I will fight as long as I can. That is all I need to do. Our fatter, I know said of the Smain. 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 I know said of the Smain." The central device hummed louder, and the energy circle tightened further. Varaxis hissed and struck at the pillars again, but each blow was weaker than the last. Evan could see that she was struggling, trying to find a weakness in the system. He adjusted more switches, rerouted energy, and connected channels he had not thought possible. The light in the chamber grew blinding. Golden beams shot out from the pillars, forming a cage so strong that even Varaxis could not move freely. She growled, her eyes flashing with fury and frustration. Evan took a deep breath, feeling the strain of the energy on his body. He was exhausted, but he could not stop. If he stopped, everything would fail. Varaxis moved slowly inside the cage, her glowing eyes locked on him. "You are brave," she said, her voice soft now. "And foolish. You have no idea what you face. No one can defeat me." "Maybe not," Evan replied. "But I can delay you. I can hold you long enough for my people to survive. And that is enough." He continued to adjust the controls, connecting every energy channel, rerouting power through the central device. The cage tightened further, forcing Varaxis to her knees in the center. She hissed and struck at the energy, but she could not break free. "You are persistent," she said again, her voice trembling with frustration. "I have not met a human like you in centuries. Why do you not run? Why do you not surrender?" "Because I fight for others," Evan said. "Because someone has to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is why I stand. That is why I fight." Varaxis paused, studying him. For the first time, she seemed uncertain. Her centuries of hunting and feeding had never prepared her for this. She could feel his courage, his determination, and she did not know how to respond. Evan moved closer to the central device, feeling the energy hum under his hands. He pressed a final switch, and the golden light flared, forming a perfect cage around Varaxis. She roared in frustration, striking at the energy. But it held firm. The chamber shook, dust falling from the ceiling. But the cage did not break. "You have delayed me," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "But I will not be held forever. One day, I will break free, and you will pay for this." I hope not, Evan said calmly. But for now, you are contained. My people can survive. That is enough. He stepped back, feeling the strain of the battle. His body ached, his muscles were tired, and his hands shook. But he was alive, and Varaxis was trapped. For the first time, he felt a sense of relief. The colony was safe, at least for now. From outside the ruins, he could hear the faint sounds of ships returning, evacuating the survivors. Lily's voice came through the communicator, relieved and excited. Evan, we did it. They're all safe. You're alive. I'm alive, he replied, his voice tired but calm. But the fight isn't over. She's still dangerous. We have to be ready. Lily's voice grew serious. We'll be ready. You've given us time. That's what matters. Come back to us. Evan nodded, even though she could not see him. He knew he could not leave yet. The golden cage held Varaxis for now. But he needed to study it, understand it, and make sure she could not escape. He moved carefully around the chamber, inspecting the devices, repairing wires, and adjusting energy flows. Varaxis watched him from inside the cage, her glowing eyes full of anger and curiosity. She had not expected this from a human. She had hunted them for centuries, feeding on their fear and weakness. But Evan was different. He was brave, clever, and persistent. For a moment, she hesitated. The centuries of predatory instinct conflicted with something new, something she had not felt in a long time. She realized that humans were not as weak as she had thought. Some could stand, fight, and even challenge her in ways she had never imagined. Evan worked through the night, repairing the ancient systems and reinforcing the energy cage. He moved carefully, knowing that one mistake could allow Varaxis to break free. Sweat dripped from his brow, but he did not stop. He thought of the colony, of Lily, and of all the people who now had a chance to survive. That thought gave him strength. By morning, the golden cage was stable. The hum of energy filled the chamber, steady and strong. Varaxis remained trapped inside, unable to move freely, her glowing eyes fixed on Evan. She had not attacked him since the cage fully activated, but he knew she was planning her next move. She was clever, patient, and dangerous. Evan took a deep breath and sat against a pillar. Exhausted but alert, he had delayed her, contained her, and protected the colony. For now, he had won, but he knew that this was only part of the battle. The Queen was still alive, still thinking, and she would find a way to escape. He closed his eyes briefly, allowing himself a moment of rest. Then he opened them. Looking at Varaxis inside the golden cage, he understood that the next day would bring new challenges, new strategies, and new dangers. But he also knew that he could face them. He was a human, and humans had something that even the strongest alien could not break: courage, determination, and the will to protect others. For now, Evan Brooks had stood alone against the alien vampire queen, and he had not run. That choice, he knew, was only the beginning. The golden cage hummed steadily, holding Varaxis in place. Evan Brooks had spent the night reinforcing it, adjusting the ancient devices, and making sure every energy channel was stable. The chamber was quiet now, except for the low hum of power and the faint sound of dust shifting from the crumbling walls. Outside, the colony was safe for the moment. Ships had carried the survivors to a distance where Varaxis could not reach them, and Lily and her team were organizing defenses in case the Queen ever escaped. Evan leaned against one of the glowing pillars, his body aching, but his mind was alert. He knew that this was only temporary. Varaxis was clever, patient, and dangerous. She had survived centuries by hunting, feeding, and adapting. The golden cage slowed her down, but it could not hold her forever unless he found a way to activate the main containment system completely. He studied the symbols carved into the walls. The carvings told a story of humans who had once fought creatures like Varaxis long ago. They had used the fortress itself as a trap, channeling energy through the pillars and linking it to the central device. If Evan could restore all the energy channels, he could contain the queen permanently, or at least for a very long time. Varaxis watched him from inside the cage. Her glowing red eyes were full of fury, curiosity, and something that almost looked like hesitation. For centuries, she had fed on fear and weakness. But Evan was different. He did not run. He did not beg. He stood his ground, calm and determined, even when she could have destroyed him easily. "You are persistent," Varaxis said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "No human has ever resisted me like this. Why do you fight? What is in your mind that makes you different?" "I fight because someone must," Evan replied calmly. "Someone must protect those who cannot protect themselves. I stand because it is the right thing to do, even if I die. That is why I am different." Varaxis tilted her head, intrigued. For a moment, she seemed to hesitate. She had hunted humans for centuries, feeding on their energy, and she had never encountered someone like this. Evan's courage and determination confused her. Evan moved closer to the central control panel. He studied the remaining levers, switches, and symbols. Most were active, but a few channels were still broken. If he could repair them, the cage would hold her permanently. He worked quickly, reconnecting wires, adjusting power flows, and rerouting energy through backup circuits. Sparks flew as ancient machines roared to life, filling the chamber with a golden glow. Varaxis hissed, moving violently inside the cage. But she could not escape. The energy pushed back against her, forcing her to slow down. Her red eyes fixed on Evan, watching his every move. "You are clever," she said. "But cleverness alone will not save you. I will not be trapped forever. One day, I will break free, and then you will pay." "I know," Evan replied. "I do not expect to win by myself, but I can hold you long enough for others to survive. That is enough." He pressed the final switch on the central panel. The golden light flared, spreading through every energy channel. The cage tightened around Varaxis, forming a perfect circle of energy that she could not penetrate. She roared in frustration, striking at the walls of the cage, but the energy absorbed her attacks. The chamber shook, dust falling from the ceiling, but the cage held firm. "You are persistent," Varaxis said again, her voice trembling slightly. "You have delayed me, human. But this is only temporary. I will not be contained forever." "Maybe," Evan said. "But for now, you are contained. My people are safe, and that is enough." Varaxis glared at him, her red eyes glowing brighter than ever. She moved slowly inside the cage, her long limbs pressing against the energy. But she could not escape. Evan studied her carefully. He realized something he had not thought of before. She was not simply a monster. She was cursed. Her species had been forced into this state by a parasite centuries ago. Her hunger, her strength, her need to feed it, was all because of something that controlled her mind and body. If he could separate her from that curse, maybe she would no longer be dangerous. But the devices in the fortress could only contain her energy, not remove the curse. Still, he understood that containment was enough for now. Humanity did not need to destroy her to survive. They only needed time, protection, and hope. Evan moved to the edge of the cage, speaking calmly. "You don't have to be like this forever. I know you are cursed. But you can be free someday, if you survive." Varaxis tilted her head, intrigued. No human had ever spoken to her this way. Most only screamed and ran. This human had faced her with courage and had fought to protect others. For the first time in centuries, she felt hesitation. Evan turned back to the central control panel. He worked carefully, stabilizing the energy flow. He monitored every pillar, every channel, making sure the cage remained strong. He could hear Lily's voice faintly through the communicator. "Evan, the colony is safe. Everyone is accounted for. We're sending reinforcements to help secure the area." "That's good," he replied. "I need more time here. Keep them ready." Hours passed, Evan did not rest. He repaired broken circuits, recharged energy channels, and reinforced the cage. Varaxis watched silently, occasionally striking at the energy, but each strike was weaker than the last. She hissed and roared, frustrated that her strength was useless against this human's courage and ingenuity. Evan thought about the humans who had fled. They had been afraid, but he understood them. Fear was natural. What made humans strong was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. He could not run, because he had chosen to protect others. That choice gave him strength far beyond what Varaxis expected. As evening approached, the golden cage shimmered brightly, filling the chamber with light. Varaxis moved slowly inside, her red eyes fixed on Evan. She hissed, her patience thinning. "You have delayed me, human," she said. "But do not think this will last. One day, I will escape, and when I do, you will not be here to stop me." "I don't need forever," Evan replied. "I only need enough time for my people to survive, and that is what I am giving them." He moved to the central panel, pressing one last lever. The cage flared with golden energy, stronger than ever. Varaxis roared, striking the energy with all her strength, but she could not break free. She thrashed inside, but the cage absorbed her attacks, holding her firmly. "You are clever," she said, her voice trembling. "Perhaps stronger than I expected. But cleverness alone will not save you. Soon, this will fail." "Maybe," Evan said calmly. "But I will not stop. I will hold you as long as I need to. That is my choice." Varaxis paused. Her glowing eyes studied him, curiosity and frustration mixing together. For centuries, she had hunted humans, feeding on their fear and weakness. She had never met one like Evan, who stood alone, fearless, and determined. Her instincts told her to destroy him, but something inside made her hesitate. Evan realized this hesitation could be used. He spoke softly, calmly, even though she could hear him clearly. "You don't have to be like this forever. You were cursed, forced into this state. But someday, you could be free. You don't have to hurt anyone anymore." Varaxis tilted her head, unsure how to respond. Her centuries of hunting and feeding had never prepared her for this. No human had ever spoken to her with honesty and courage. Most had screamed and run. Evan had faced her and refused to flee. That choice fascinated her. Evan moved carefully around the cage, making sure every energy channel was stable. He knew that one mistake could allow her to escape. Sweat dripped from his brow, and his muscles ached. But he did not stop. His thoughts were only on protecting the colony and keeping her contained. Hours passed, and Varaxis remained trapped. Her energy was still strong, but the golden cage held firm. Evan checked each panel, each circuit, and ensured that nothing could fail. He had done all he could. Now, it was only a matter of waiting and watching. From outside the ruins, he could hear the faint sound of ships and human voices. Lily and her team had returned, helping to secure the area and prepare for any eventuality. They had trusted him to hold the queen, and he had done it. For now, humanity had survived. Evan leaned against a pillar, exhausted but alert. He knew the battle was not truly over. Varaxis was still alive, clever, and dangerous. But she was contained, and the colony was safe. That was enough for now. Varaxis watched him silently. For the first time, she was not thinking of hunting or killing. She was thinking, uncertain, about this human who had stood alone, refusing to run, refusing to give up. She realized that humans were not as weak as she had believed. Some could stand, fight, and even challenge her in ways she had never imagined. Evan closed his eyes briefly, allowing himself a moment of rest. Then he opened them, looking at Varaxis inside the golden cage. He understood that the next day, and the days after, would bring new challenges. She was clever, patient, and strong, but he was human, and humans had something that no alien could take away: courage, determination, and the will to protect others. For now, Evan Brooks had stood alone against the alien vampire queen. He had not run. He had not begged. He had fought with everything he had. And in that choice, humanity had survived. The golden light of the cage shimmered across the chamber, filling the ruins with hope. The sun began to rise outside, casting its warm glow over the colony. Evan watched it silently, thinking about the people who had survived, the lives he had saved, and the courage it had taken to stand alone. He knew that one day Varaxis might return, that the challenge might come again. But for now, humanity had survived, and that was the true victory. Evan Brooks had faced the alien vampire queen alone. He had refused to run, and in that act, he had shown what humans were capable of when they stood together, when they protected one another, and when they chose courage over fear. For now, the colony was safe. For now, humanity had won.